They did lose. Welcome to the No, I originally liked it because Kirk Cousins against the Giants pass rush. The only thing the Giants can do is pressure the passer. So I was like, Kirk Cousins is not covering 10 points. Hey, get the sauce.
They announced Penix today, and I was like, oh, okay, good.
Yeah, now that Penix is in there, it makes it a little different. But Drew Lock might be playing, and now that he's actually been in, my gripe with Drew Lock wasn't that I don't think he's good. It was that he had been on the Giants for like 2 weeks. But now that he's been there with Daboll, I mean, maybe he's a little, I don't know. I wouldn't be mad at the Giants, but the Falcons are pretty fucking bad. But anyway, what's up, everybody?
Andy, what was your number on the Denver game?
161.5, and it just went over.
In overtime.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, Andy just lost an under in overtime. That's tough. That's a tough.
We were like, it's got to be the 10th time this year. It's got to be. It's crazy how often this happens. It wasn't even like a close spread. I think the spread ended at like 5. So like it wasn't expected to be a close game.
Yeah, someone said this.
It was at 10.
Someone said this Memphis game is great. I'm pissed I didn't bet it because I was looking at the over. Memphis team total over. The over would be about to cash right here.
I was going to ask you this. If you had just blindly taken every over in a bowl game, do you think you'd hit a profit?
I don't know.
I feel like every bowl game goes over.
Well, we have the data. We can just look it up. We literally have a spreadsheet with every game in it.
So far, 2-0 to the
Oh my God.
I don't know what the score is of that game, but I watched it. It was on TV after one of the football or basketball games got over, and the scoring that West Virginia was crazy. Like deep ball, over the shoulder catch for a touchdown. They had another one with a big long run. Nobody's playing defense.
We have the data.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk college basketball. First up, we got Big East. Creighton. Is this a true road game?
No. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
A true road Big East game here. Just short number for Georgetown.
If you consider Georgetown's home stadium.
Relax, Andy. How'd that work out with you at South Carolina today? Let the fans go, okay? Just let the fans go. Okay?
Someone said Too Legit said my only loss in college basketball tonight was Clemson. Oh,
shame. Hate to hear it. Hate to hear it.
Tosa on the South Carolina island came through.
The fact that game went to overtime just shows you how lucky.
What was your record today?
11-2.
11-2, and Jose Woods.
And my two losses were James Madison, who was tied at half.
They were winning.
And then I had Utah minus 31.5. They won by 30.
Well, Jose Wood in the comments says terrible job today. You went 11-2.
I can only do so much. I can only try to help so many people. You know, if you tailed JMU and Utah, that's on me. I'll be better tomorrow. Probably not.
Just
but
to
I'll
give you
try.
an idea of like this is the ultimate you can't win. Dude goes 11-2. Terrible job today.
My wife is happy. I'm happy. That's all that really matters. So
stop placing parlays, man. Just stop.
Well, what are you placing in a parlay that lost from my picks? Are you putting Utah minus 31.5 in a parlay? That's a you problem, not me.
No, I blame you. Okay. All right, so let's talk. He goes, I tailed the wrong two. All right, at least he's honest.
Okay.
Touchdown West Virginia. Went over. Should have bet it, but I didn't. Well, let's talk Creighton, Georgetown here. This is a short line for Georgetown. Someone in the comments said Georgetown out. Oh, Vandenbosch is here. Says Georgetown outright. Sorber going to own Kalkbrenner, and Georgetown starting to play well. Going to parlay that with a Syracuse win with beating Creighton at home.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I didn't understand the second sentence. I was with him.
Saying is they're going to basically take the momentum from their Syracuse win and carry it over Creighton. But what that doesn't mention is Syracuse sucks and Creighton's a good basketball team. So
not only
sounds like
Syracuse
Andy's on Creighton.
Not only does Syracuse suck, I'm not on Creighton. I want to bet Georgetown as well. But not only does Syracuse suck, they didn't have they lost their best player too. So they're even worse than they really even were. But go ahead, Andy.
I think this is just like the St. John's DePaul game tonight. I understand it's a road game, but this is very clearly a Georgetown team who has had to step up in class twice. They handled West Virginia much better than we thought they would. First half, they played well, but they faded in that game. But what did we see? We saw them play Notre Dame early in the year, and they couldn't compete against Notre Dame in this very gym. Notre Dame's small. Notre Dame doesn't really defend as well as we thought they would. Creighton's the opposite of that. Creighton's defending inside well. Granted, they haven't now. Their schedule's lightened up a little bit recently, but it's been a pretty tough schedule for them so far this year. They had to play the number 1 team in the country, which was Kansas at the time. They had obviously the Players Tournament in Las Vegas, so they've played tough competition, much tougher than Georgetown. So I think just purely the fact that these teams have faced opposite schedules. Georgetown's beating up on nobody. I mean, there's not an impressive win on this team's resume right now, while you have Creighton, who's pretty much been facing great team after great team. So I think it's going to be similar to the St. John's game. I think they're going to blow past this line. I think it's going to be 10 to 15 points.
Well, the poll seems to agree with you. A couple questions about the morning games, Toast, if you want to take them. Oh, actually, one's not a question. Graben says he likes Abilene Christian -8.5 at noon tomorrow. But Toast, the one sub said, Toast, does Sacred Heart win tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.?
Let me double check to see what that line is now. I just looked at it like 20 minutes ago. It keeps on moving. So if you're gonna play it now. It was at 1.5 like 3 hours ago. It's at 3.5 now. So probably a good chance. It just depends on what line you get. If it gets up to 4, then I'm looking probably the other way, to be honest with you guys.
All right. Graben says he likes Abilene Christian, but all right, Toast, you said you are leaning towards Georgetown. Didn't sound like you actually liked it.
I just feel like I'm not going to bet it tonight because I feel like I'm probably going to get a better number in the morning. And if it goes down to 3, like it has on Caesars, and it goes down on all the other books, I'll be hitting Georgetown for sure. I don't know what to think of this Creighton team. Andy's right. They've played a really good schedule, but Kansas is their best win, but besides that, they have every time they've stepped up in class, they've been shit on as well. So I don't really put too much stock into that Kansas win. It was at home. Kansas has been kind of faltering. I don't really think they're the 10th best team in the country, as like KenPom says they are. Even that win against NC State, they won easily, but as far as covering is concerned, they weren't always in a lock to cover. But my point with Georgetown being is that I agree with whoever said that in the comments. They're starting to play well. And I just don't know what to expect from Creighton. Here's my issue with Creighton is that they didn't use Kalkbrenner for one of their big games. I can't remember who he didn't play against, but they didn't have Kalkbrenner. And then now their last 2 games, they haven't had Pop Isaacs. He's not going to be back anytime soon. So I don't even think we know what Creighton really is right now. Obviously with those 2 guys missing, Kalkbrenner is back, but I just feel like this is another game where I think that Georgetown is going to try to push the pace a little bit. And if they're successful in doing that just a little bit, I think that can keep them in this game. Not to mention the fact that one of the things that I love, especially betting on Creighton, is that they always seem to have a free throw advantage. Well, Georgetown's shooting free throws really well right now too. So I wouldn't mind the under either, because I don't really trust either one of these teams from deep. But I said it when I bet Georgetown against Syracuse. I think that Cooley's starting to build something here. I haven't bet it, but if it gets down to 3 on all the other books, this kind of reeks like the South Carolina Clemson game. I think that Georgetown is live in this game. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I didn't bet it, but at the same time, I'm just not convinced that Creighton is that good of our basketball team. Again, they've beat up on some really bad teams, and every time they've stepped up in competition, they've got beat, except for that Kansas game, which was at home, which I'm pretty sure was Kansas's first true road game. Yeah, it was. So again, you can probably pick it either way. I think that this line is 3 for a reason. I made Creighton -1. But yeah, I lean Georgetown, but I haven't bet it yet.
Memphis just caught like a 90-yard touchdown. Oh, no, he got tackled at the 1, like an 89-yard pass down to the 1. We have a message here. Eric Shipley says Georgetown is a mega max. His words.
Tell him to stop tailing Ronnie and just relax.
Was that with Ronnie?
Yeah, Ronnie's like, I'm hammering it.
Yeah, but I mean, Shipley uses the word mega max. That's something he would say. I would lean towards Creighton with Andy here, by the way. Not bad.
You said they're building something. Like they are winning. They're winning games by a lot. Georgetown, but like, who are they winning games? Their highest ranked win this year is the 107th ranked team in the nation, which is Syracuse, and that, like you said, they're without their best.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home. What's next? Notre Dame, UNLV.
They beat Notre Dame. They beat UNLV. They beat Kansas. That's 3 teams in which Georgetown doesn't have a game nearing that
Wise
level.
man once told me college basketball isn't transactional. Is that true or not?
Yeah.
I did, and then I got laughed at for it.
I just laugh at you normally.
I was gonna say, I think Kyle just laughs at you no matter what.
That's true. I brought up NJIT yesterday about the Seton Hall game. What happened?
Again, I didn't bet Georgetown, so I don't want people watching this thinking that it's a slam Georgetown spot. I just feel like I don't feel like Creighton can be trusted right now. So, and I also think this line's low for a reason.
Going over covered.
Some more Big East ball. Touchdown Memphis, by the way, Andy. 41-31 PAT pending.
Except the playoff games.
Yeah, you got to mute this guy. Go do 11-2. Still like, what's wrong with people?
Not to mention, I was like dog shit the first 2 weeks of the season, but I've like caught fire the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I'm up like 14. I'm up like 14 units the last like 2 weeks.
I know.
Or whatever.
Xavier, UConn in UConn. Andy is the number 2 big.
It got bigger. I liked it when it was 11.5. Now it's scaring me that literally everybody on earth is on UConn. But they should. This is one of those. They should win this by a lot. You could put UConn up for me, but I certainly am not betting it. I don't love it. They're probably 20 points better than Xavier. Xavier is a very mid-tier, solid, fine team. They might win a couple of games this year they're not supposed to win. But UConn's caught fire. The only games that they've played poorly were the ones that they played in Maui. That team's they're completely different from the team we saw in Maui. So very clearly they didn't handle Maui well. They didn't handle the trip well. Since they've come back, they beat Texas on the road. They just beat Gonzaga in one of maybe the best basketball games I've ever watched. Like, they look good again. So they should win this game by a lot of points. But the number keeps climbing, and Xavier has this thing with Coach Miller where they could at any time strike and play a close game with you. But you could put UConn up, but I'm not betting it. But UConn would be the play.
Toast Musketeers.
You don't know how
they look so bad. I bet Xavier once this year, and they look like absolute shit.
Well, their coaching is shit. Their program is shit, and then they lost their best player their last game in Zach Freemantle. So everything is going to shit for Xavier. That being said, if this isn't the definition of a flat spot for UConn, I don't know what is. Baylor, Texas, Gonzaga, two of them on the road, whatever, on neutral in Madison Square Garden. That's a fucking home game. And now you're playing a Xavier team without their best player on the floor. Not to mention all the other injuries that Xavier has had this year as well. I can't think of the other kid's name off the top of my head, but as far again, Andy's right. UConn has caught fire. Obviously, they didn't try in Maui, and according to their coach, they're never going to do a tournament like that again. That's how embarrassing they were in that, and so it makes sense. And now they've came out. They got a right game against Eastern Maryland Shore. They paid the refs against Gonzaga, so they got that win. It's pretty good how UConn's been playing lately, but good for them. But I'm not in a position where I'm going to be laying 13.5. I just feel like this is probably. I think that Xavier is just going to try to shoot the lights out. That's one thing that Xavier can do is shoot the 3 ball, and that's one thing that UConn has struggled with. Now, there's a huge caveat to UConn struggling with the threes because they did play 3 games in Maui, and so it's really hard to be like, oh, they struggle against 3 when you have those island rims and everything's bouncing in. So I don't really think that UConn's as bad as defending the 3 ball as Ken Pom and other websites show them as. But again, you have a Xavier team that can shoot threes and they can shoot free throws at one of the best rates in the country. So taking Zach Freemantle out really does hurt. Again, I don't know if I can end up betting Xavier. If it gets to 14.5, I'll probably throw a half a unit on Xavier just to make UConn prove it to me. But again, I agree with Andy. UConn's playing better. They should mollywop this team. I just don't know if it happens. Not to mention the fact that UConn has Butler on deck as well. So it's not like there's nothing really I just feel like it's a sleepy spot for UConn. There's nothing for them to really get up for here. Besides the fact that it's their first Big East game.
Someone in the comments says, stop with that dumb island rim shit. I like it. I agree with that guy.
I'll stop. I'm sorry that I went 8-3 playing overs on the island. I will stop next year just for you, dog. Just for you. God forbid I play a system that's hitting over 70%. God forbid.
The island rim's some fake shit. Don't be afraid of ghosts, man.
UConn. Xavier came into UConn. I know it was last year, a much better team. Xavier, I remember the game very well because I had UConn. Xavier went into UConn last year, lost by 34 on a Sunday afternoon. It was one of the ugliest games this season.
Virginia's live here, guys.
But to be fair, they also played a game in Xavier, and they only won that. UConn only won that game by like a possession or two. I can't remember exactly, but but Xavier's terrible, guys. I just want to tell you, Sean Miller can't coach for shit. They suck. I promise you.
Virginia's live here. You got Memphis, 3-point reliant team going on the road against a tough defense. They're going to take the 3-ball away. Memphis can't score. Shouldn't be lane 6 here. Virginia's live.
Andy?
Don't take a 3. You never take a 3-point reliant team on the road against a good defense. Come on. Child's play. Handicap, child's play.
Here's the thing. They're not a 3-point reliant team.
You told me they were, Andy. Wonder how I know they're a 3-point reliant team? You told me.
Here's the thing about Virginia. Virginia's defense is not what it used to be. Their defense is, like, systematically it is, but they're giving up a lot of points in these games now. I mean, we brought it up before. It was St. John's that scored the most against them, but St. John's is better than Memphis. I don't care what anybody says. But even in their other games, right, like, they gave up 87 to Florida. They gave up 63 to SMU. That's not a great SMU offense. Like, they gave up 60 to Villanova. That was Villanova was playing poorly. Like, they've given up a lot of points in these games. The defense is nowhere near as good. And, like, Memphis isn't this team that's just trying to shoot the lights out completely. They've kind of been a more balanced team than I expected them to be this year. They are scoring a lot on free throws, and you're not going to get fouled much by Virginia. So, like, that could be something. But yeah, the number climbed to the point where I could get on board with you with Virginia, but I'm probably just going to pass on the game. Or maybe an over, because Memphis could go out and score 80, and this over could be either over or pass for me.
Bad picks.
Yeah, it's Memphis all the way here for me. You can call me square, you can call me whatever you want. But this Andy, I mean, I can't really add what Andy said to Virginia. I mean, they're not a good basketball team. I think that Ron Sanchez was dealt a very bad hand. He was pretty decent at Charlotte, but this is a completely different situation with a team that he didn't recruit. He hasn't been ready to coach this team, at least as a head coach. And you're going to be facing a Memphis team that, I mean, who's been tested more this year than Memphis has? I mean, Missouri, UNLV, Ohio, San Francisco, UConn, Michigan State, Auburn, Louisiana Tech, Arkansas State, Clemson. The worst team that they've played is number 165 in Ohio, and they won that game by 24 points. Okay. This team has continued to impress no matter what. Yes, a lot of that was in Maui, and the one loss in Maui was to Auburn, and Auburn beats everybody by 15 points. So it's really hard to do that. And then they lost a random game on a Sunday that it is what it is. You can make jokes about Penny Hardaway and whatnot, but they shouldn't have lost that game. They got punched in the mouth early. They were never able to recover. They tried to make it close in the second half, but you're playing a Virginia team that, I don't trust them offensively, and frankly enough, I don't really trust them defensively either. I mean, they haven't really faced a team like Memphis. The other teams that I would consider like Memphis in a way, as far as speed, as far as possession length in their offense, Florida, who they lost by 20. St. John's, they lost by 15, 20 again. Tennessee is another one, but Tennessee runs pretty slow, so that doesn't count. But regardless, anytime they've seen any type of a team that resembles Memphis, they've been absolutely slaughtered. Also, by the way, Virginia's best wins Villanova. Keep in mind, Villanova is absolutely terrible. We keep on telling you guys that. Not only is Villanova terrible, they've played like one of the worst schedules in the country. So not only are they terrible, but they haven't played anybody either. So you don't get any credit for me for beating a Virginia team by 10. A Villanova team by 10 if you're Virginia. So it'd be Memphis or nothing for me. I don't know if I lay 6.5 with a total that with a Virginia team that's going to make this game an absolute crawl like they're going to try to. I mean, Virginia is literally the slowest team in the country as far as average possession length. So, but at the same time is that the one thing that gets Memphis is that usually is their turnovers, but Virginia doesn't create turnovers. Virginia turns the ball over, and there's guys on Memphis that can really get turnovers as far as Tyrese Hunter and Colby Rogers are concerned. And to be honest, I don't really mind PJ Haggerty either. So, and Dane Danger, by the way, is coming into his own. I don't know what happened after he left freaking Illinois, but he is coming out of his mind. 11 points the last game, 16 points the night before that, and starting to hit his free throws at a very high rate too. So you put all that together, I think that Memphis wins this game pretty comfortably. Again, I wish I would have got it at the opener. I don't really love it at 6 as much, but I don't think that Memphis loses.
I'm on the other side. I'm betting that too.
On their schedule.
Say that again, Andy. Sorry.
they're not stopping either. The next two teams on their schedule are Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Like Penny Hardaway just decided they were not going to be a bubble team this year. They were either going to suck early or they were going to win all their non-conference games and just cruise to the.
And you know what's even funnier about that is their next game after that is FAU, and when they scheduled that game, Dusty May was there, Golden was there. You know what I mean? So they scheduled that game assuming it was going to be.
That's a conference game, right?
Oh, you're right. My bad.
It is a conference.
I got ahead of myself. I got ahead of myself.
Conference schedule isn't a cakewalk. They're going to have to play North
You're
Tech, ECU, FAU. I mean, Wichita State's terrible, but like. Their conference schedule is not going to be the easiest either. Good for them.
Next up is Michigan, Oklahoma. Is this a true road game?
No, this is in Charlotte, where the Florida North Carolina game was today. The Jumpman Invitational.
I was going to say it's the Jumpman because the Michigan girls were playing tonight.
Why is Michigan laying? Is Oklahoma that bad this year?
No, they're both very good.
Michigan's
good?
I was
confused as to why Michigan. I took the total. I have the over. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. Back and forth. The thing is I think both teams are going to have extra possessions. Both teams aren't great at rebounding defensively, and both are really good offensive rebounding teams. So I just think there's going to be a lot of extra possessions for both teams, and both of these teams can score. So I think it'll be a very high total or high scoring game.
Touchdown, by the way. Touchdown, West Virginia.
What happened? Another touchdown in the?
Yeah, it's 42-36. PAT pending. So you like the over?
Yeah, I like.
He sounded pretty confident. I might be down to tail, but he sounded pretty confident.
Curious what Toast has to say, because he seemed like he made a face.
Well, Van de Bosch is on Michigan. He says Michigan by 7.
Yeah, I would agree with Van den Bosch as well. I don't really know what to think of this Oklahoma team. Obviously, it's really easy to figure out that they haven't been tested at all. Their best win is against an Arizona team that on a neutral that I don't really know what to think of Arizona. I guess we're going to find out tomorrow a little bit because I think Arizona plays Samford after losing 3 of their last 4. But at the same time, what is Arizona, like fucking 3-7 or something like that? So again, that looks kind of good on paper, but is it really as good as it looks? I don't really know. The Louisville game, I don't really consider Louisville a really good team. So really Oklahoma hasn't played anybody. And then you have a Michigan team that I like the spot for Michigan because it is on a neutral, but at the same time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, their last 5 games, 2 of them been on neutral. 3 of them have been on neutral, 1 of them been away. And all those teams are pretty decent as far as a competition is concerned. I mean, Virginia Tech is terrible. Throw them away. Xavier's bad, but they're still a top 60, 75 team in KenPom. Wisconsin's pretty decent. Iowa's pretty decent. Arkansas is somewhat decent as well. They should have won that. They probably could have won that Arkansas game. That game was absolutely crazy. If you guys remember, I think Michigan was up like 10 at half or something like that. And then Arkansas, the first 10 minutes of that second half, went on a 33-13 run to absolutely kill that.
Decided that first halves don't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's true. Like the Miami game. But yeah, I just think that this is a really big step up in class for Oklahoma and a team that hasn't really been tested on a neutral. Again, I don't think that Oklahoma State's a very good team. I talked about Arizona and Louisville. So besides that, they're playing absolutely nobody at home, and now they're going to have to play this game in Charlotte, which they just played in Oklahoma City. But again, I just really don't like the spot for them. And you got Michigan coming off a loss against Arkansas, a game they should have won. They won the previous 3 games. I just don't see what Oklahoma can do to cause problems to Michigan, especially now that Danny Wolf and Golden are starting to play together. I mean, the fact that those 2 guys are both 6'5", 7 foot is really, really big for them. Then they have that Gale kid who's 6'5" that can shoot the lights out and is a really good, decent free throw shooter. That's the one thing that with Michigan they have to fix is their turnovers and their free throw shooting. They're one of the worst teams in the country turning the ball over, and that's why I haven't bet Michigan yet, is because Oklahoma defensively is really good. Again, I don't think that they've seen a threat like Michigan is going to propose to them, but at the same time, I think it's Michigan here. I haven't bet it, but there's no way I could get to Oklahoma here.
Rodfather has entered the chat, and he's on Oklahoma. He says, bet against Michigan after allowing 85 points or more. Michigan's record since last season, 0-9 against the spread after allowing 85 points or more. So Rod likes Oklahoma. A couple people gave me compliments on the over in this bowl game. I like the under tomorrow in the UNLV game. Got it at 48.5. We don't know who's playing quarterback for Cal.
That might be the exception to my rule. Who's playing quarterback for Cal?
But we don't know who's playing. But Andy, did you edited the video? You heard what I said, right? So you take out Mendoza. Cal's an offense that has only been able to throw it this year. They haven't been able to run.
The exact opposite of what they just did for 12 games.
Yeah, and they've been trying to run it. They just can't. They haven't been able to run the ball all year. Now you take away. They might have their fourth string quarterback playing, a freshman. So, and this is an offense that's been relying on the pass. I don't know what Cal does offensively. And on the other side of the ball, Cal's defensive front, I mean, can you say, other than maybe Houston earlier in the year, this is UNLV's the toughest defense they've seen all year. UNLV's not going to be able to get 5 yards per carry on Cal's defensive front. Yeah, so
is Marshawn Lynch playing?
I think 48.5 is super high. I'm a little worried. Oh, my God, Memphis. Oh, I thought they just took that kickoff. I'm a little worried that the game's at SoFi, so it'll be like perfect conditions for scoring points. But I don't know. I think 48.5 is way high. I think it should be ugly. I would say like 24-10 UNLV. I would lean towards UNLV, but anyway, let's move on to the next one.
Cougs, right?
Yep. The Apple Cup. Is this not the Apple Cup?
I think that's only for football, but I don't know. It sounds good though. I'll take it.
So is this a true home game?
Yeah.
For Washington, yeah.
Damn. All right, we got a cool one here. I might be down to bet this. I'm all ears. What do we think about these teams? You know what? I'll always have a place in my heart for the Cougars basketball team. Do you remember when we took them against Arizona in that big game?
I do.
That was fucking awesome. I think they were catching like 10 and we took the money line. Oh my God. I'll never forget that game. That was awesome.
I don't understand why Washington is laying points here, to be dead honest with you guys. I think that Washington State's the head and shoulders.
Can we give him a preface? His family, he grew up a diehard Washington State fan, so he's not.
But that's for football only. We are a Gonzaga basketball family. We only have season tickets for football in my family. Basketball is dead, especially with Kyle Smith being gone. Anyway, I just don't. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I like the new coach. He's cool.
Yeah, David Riley's all right, but at the same time, I mean, he came over from Eastern Washington and he dominated at Eastern Washington, so we'll see how it ends up being out. But as far as this game is concerned, I just don't understand why Washington is laying points here. You have a Washington State team that has not only played a better schedule, they're a bigger team. I think they're a more talented team. The only issue that I have with Washington State is their ability not to hold on to the basketball. But you have a Washington State team that really doesn't like to shoot three balls. They're one of the best teams inside the arc in the country. You have a Washington team that really can defend the three ball well, but that doesn't really defend inside really well. And honestly, the Washington offense is just absolutely terrible. I mean, it doesn't matter unless it's a little bit of rebounding, which I don't think they're going to be able to do as cleanly against a bigger Washington State team that knows they need a rebound. This number makes no sense to me. So I played Washington State plus 3.5 when it opened. I also played Washington State on the money line. I made Washington State -2 in this game. Yes, Washington has played two of their last 3 games have been somewhat decent against USC and UCLA, but they got beat handily in both of those games. Maybe not the UCLA game, and I'm not trying to make a case that Washington State is as good as UCLA. I honestly think that UCLA is one of the best teams in the country that nobody's talking about. But USC is not good, and they got mollywopped by that team. They beat up on Eastern Washington. Good job for you Huskies fans. I think that this is a huge step up in class for them. I think that Washington State wins this game outright. I think Washington wins pretty easily.
Our poll is leaning towards Washington State as well, but it's only 16 votes, but 69%, 31% in favor of the Cougs. Do you co-sign that, Andy?
Yeah, I had high hopes for Washington coming into the season. They had brought in, they paid I think $1 million in NIL for one of the top 5 recruits or top 5 transfers in the country, in Great Osobor. But he just followed his coach to Washington. That's the only reason he's there, and the money, obviously. But I mean, he's been good, but there's nothing else on this team. He's averaging almost a double-double, but then there's just literally nothing else. Like, if you look at them offensively, they had 58 against UCLA. UCLA is a really good defensive team. USC is like an average defensive team. They had 61 points against them. then the only reason they scored 87 on Eastern Washington is literally one of the worst defensive teams in the country. Like, there's not like, and they're one of the worst they're one of the worst teams in the country.
They suck.
So the only reason, like, that's the only offensive output that they've come in and done well. Like, they had 77 against Alcorn. That's also one of the worst defensive teams in the country. So, like, there's been nothing offensively for Washington this year. Yes, they have a good defense, but again, the schedule doesn't exactly like back up the fact that they have a good defense, because they haven't faced really that many good offenses. Like Nevada, they faced Nevada, was a good offense. That was on November 9th. Since then, they really haven't faced much. So they haven't played anybody. They haven't looked great. The turnovers, I mean, for Washington State, I've always said it. The reason they turn the ball over so much, and they're turning it over a lot. They're 301st in the country in turnover percentage. They're running a fast pace. Turnovers are going to come with a fast pace, so that's just natural. That's how that works. So, of course, they're going to turn it over. I don't think it's as big of an issue, especially because I think Washington at home is going to try to slow the game down. I think that'll help Washington limit Washington State turnover. So, I really like Washington State here as dogs. I had them earlier on in the year in their MTE, wherever that was. It was at San Francisco, I think. And I like this team. I think they're talented. I think they got screwed by their conference, but I mean, they might win that conference. But yeah, they're in a good position, and I think they could win this one.
So it looks like everyone's on Washington State here. Juice is on Washington State. Trey Barry says the Cougs. Someone else had Washington State here too, but everyone's on Washington State except Rodfather. Says,
oh, come on.
He says bet against Washington State in away or neutral site games after winning by 10 points or more. Washington State's record since 2023 in such instances 3-13 against the spread. So it sounds like the Rodfather is leaning towards the Huskies. And honestly, I'm not betting it. You guys sounded way too confident, and everyone in the comments is on board. Like, this one sounds.
This is Robert Morris of today. This is how Robert Morris started. I made Robert Morris -2. They were getting +2. I said in the Discord, how the hell is this line +2? Helms chimed in, don't be a pussy. Then every 5-10 people bet it. So I had to bet it. Then you bet it.
Yeah.
Everybody's betting it.
Yeah, I got it at +115. So this
happened?
Would you like where would you make this line?
I had Washington State -1.
Damn. All right. Let's do a community top bet, and then let's call it real quick. For those of you that didn't see it,
and the only reason I say that is because the two losses for Washington State is the SMU, who's somewhat of a decent team. I just think that they just didn't have any legs in that game. And the other game that they lost, as far as Washington State is concerned, against Iowa, and they were in that game pretty much the whole game. It was a fourth quarter or the last 10 minutes of the game that really got away from them. But it was essentially a tie game with 10 minutes to go, and then Iowa won by 10. And that was Washington State, their third game of the year, traveling across the country. None of this is even close to the same. Like, again, this line just makes absolutely no sense to me.
By the way, Xavier +13, and they have won the poll. And no one voted for Virginia. I like that bet. I'm taking Virginia. Full disclosure, I don't know shit about college basketball. Well, I mean, I don't know shit. I haven't been following it that closely. It's probably a better way to describe that. I get into college basketball in January for conference play when the football starts to slow down. But real quick, I want to show you